5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah! Release my app. Hey everybody, thank you for supporting us through the development period of Mirador. It is now, or in a few seconds, as soon as Steam's loading bar stops spinning around, Mirador should be live on, you guys can see us, right? Yes. Mirador should be live on Steam for you to go and get. It's 10% off for the whole first week. I have the entire development, almost the entire development team of Mirador behind me, and we're super excited and super nervous, but mostly excited to have you guys hop into Mirador, step through the portal, and make some Sentinels and try to defeat our Sentinels. And be sure to join us. Yay, it's published! Be sure to join us on discord.gg/Mirador. Most of the developers are here. Yep, it's now published. We'll put the link in the chat. So go and get it! And thank you for being here with us. And we're gonna pause the stream for now, but we will be back in about maybe 30 minutes to maybe play with you guys and check out the Sentinels that you've made. So thank you once again, and see you in Mirador. Yay! You guys couldn't see the camera? No! Don't tell anybody. I can't believe you guys couldn't see the camera. We set the whole thing up. Stupid OBS studio. Okay, so I'm gonna be chilling here on the stream, doing stuff, but at the same time monitoring the Twitch, the YouTube. The game is not early access, no. The game is a full release, and we're still planning on adding content to it. Don't worry. I can't believe you couldn't see the camera. No. I can't believe you couldn't see the camera. Everybody was in this mall. I'm so embarrassed. I will never tell anybody. I will never tell anybody. I hope nobody's watching the stream. Oh my God. Okay, so yeah, Mirador is live on Steam right now. You can get it. It's giving me an error when launching on Windows 10. Restart your game. Restart Steam as a whole. It shouldn't give you any errors. Bonsoir, Zifarion. They're popping the champagne back there. I can't believe the camera was working. I can't believe it. I'm so angry. I'm actually really like upset. I have a big list of things I need to do. I will be doing it while we're here, while we're chilling with you guys. In case you have questions, in case you're not sure how to do stuff, I will be playing Mirador soon on stream, maybe with some of you guys. Our options are no fully functional. Options should be functional. It might be a little difficult to navigate with the keyboard and mouse. If you have a controller, I strongly recommend you play with a controller. If not, use ASDW to move around the options. If you're playing with a keyboard, always leave your left hand on ASDW. Use W and S to go up and down the options, and you might have to click on select. Here, let me show you actually. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna boot up the game as well in the background here real quick. Hold on. Whew, thank you, Sir Hacker. This has been crazy. Yes, there's volume options. Thank you, my boy Twitch. Is Mirador Diablo-like? Not really. Mirador is a top-down hack and slash, and you get loot. That's about where it ends with the Diablo similarities. The combat feels a little bit like Diablo, but it is a boss rush game. It is a game where you're gonna go and kill boss after boss fight after boss fight. But what's really awesome about it is that the boss fights are created by other players. So on one hand, you're out there, you're gonna kill sentinels, you're gonna defeat other players' bosses, or try to. It's gonna be hard at first, but once you start learning what the abilities in Mirador are, you're gonna have an easier time doing it. And then, whoops, it's still, wow, I have a bunch of old things here. Hold on, ignore all that. There we go. And then you come back to the Citadel and you make your own boss, which we call Sentinels, to send it out there and have other players beat it. Yeah, it's gonna be difficult. It's gonna be difficult. They're good dogs. You shouldn't be getting an error. Did you restart Steam altogether? You shouldn't. I got that error once. I restarted Steam and it worked. Make sure your graphic card drivers are up to date. So in the options, if you're using a keyboard and mouse, click on options, and then to switch from audio to display to general graphics, just click on the next tab here at the top right. And then you've got the other tab here, previous tab. By the way, we're already working on a patch right now, so some things are going to be fixed. And then let's say under, I don't know, graphics options here, I can use W and S to go up and down, and then texture quality, select here at the bottom right. And then I choose, I don't know, medium, and then select, or go back to high. You get the idea. And then after you set a quality setting, so let's say I set it to low over here, click on apply all. It says Y, but that's with a controller, it's Y. But you just click with your mouse if you're on PC. I'm gonna set that back to high. Whew. It feels so weird. WASD. I said ASDW, WASD, no, it's WASD. The online co-op works. Yes, you can play online co-op. Actually, I'm going to play some online co-op right now. So in order to play online co-op, press E as a dog, he barks. Yes! The dog barks when you press E. In order to play co-op, you both have to be in the Citadel. When you are both in the Citadel, go to your friends list, right-click, and either invite or join, and it will put you in a party with them. You'll know you're in a party when it says here, where my camera is right now, there's a UI. Here, let me hide my face. Cam, boom, there we go. See, over at the top left, it says Chateau Jaune. That's because I'm not in a party. If I was in a party with someone, it would say their name underneath my name. We need to, like, rework the UI for Mirador.
Est-ce que t'es en train de filmer?
Oui, non.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Puis on prend mais viens, on prend une photo.
Mais on est en stream. Ah, on prend une photo. Okay, I'll be right back.
Be right back.
Ouais, je peux dire be right back. Sorry, she made me. Okay, I know you're all playing right now. Stop playing for a second and look over here. I'm bringing everybody back. I told them, I confessed, guys. I confessed that the camera wasn't live. I confessed that the camera wasn't live. And I told them to come back. It was very embarrassing to confess. How bad is it if you don't have your most up-to-date GPU driver? If you don't get any frame drops, don't worry about it. Come on in, come on in. Yeah, viens-t'en. There we go. Okay, now it works for real. If you don't get any lag spikes, you don't need to update your graphic card drivers. Yeah, there's two players because there's someone in here. Is everyone here? Where is everyone? They went back to work. They went back to work. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah! There you go.
Okay, bye.
Okay, now back to work.
Ah! C'est Benoît qui arrive.
Oh, I lowered it.
Ah!
There we go. So that's half the team here, celebrating with a little drink. There's a lot of apple juice. People other than Shot the Drone. Yes, surprisingly. There's more people that work here than me. It's not just me. You see my face all the time because that's what they pay me for, but it's mostly not me that does any of the work. I just get to reap the rewards. Can we change the name of Sentinels? No. It's randomly generated, but eventually we have the idea of itemizing the name so you can maybe find loot that's actually like name labels where you can slot names or whatnot. The naming thing is randomized right now. We didn't want people to type nasty things. And yeah, it looks like somebody, somebody that's on my friends has just joined me, Foden Swift, which is cool. It's, whoop, hold on, too low. Ah, there you go. Foden Swift just joined me, which is fine. Foden Swift, make sure you're in the Citadel. We can play. You know what? We'll play. I'm gonna go into the tower over here, and I'm gonna play with the controller. Actually, I'm gonna interact with that chest to turn into the crow to use the. Oh, there's a little bug here. If you find bugs, be sure to let us know. To be the crow, just go into the tower to the right and then interact with the chest at the bottom. You see this thing here? The door, the slightly open door down there. That's the Sentinel Workshop. That's where you go in order to make a Sentinel. Also, you see the NPCs, the dogs and the crows that are just chilling around. You can interact with them. They'll tell you stuff. All right, Foden Swift. I don't know who you are. Somebody that's on my friends list, I think. Are you on my friends list? Let's hope it doesn't like break because you're not on my friends list or something like that. Ah! Oh, you're a crow too! Hello? Let me raise the volume. I get a feeling you guys can't really hear very well. Alright, let's go, Foden. First person I play Mirador with that's not a developer. Go into the tower that's on the right side. In the Citadel, there's two towers. There's one on the right. No, come over here, Foden. This is Windblown Steps. There's a tower on the right side. Go inside of it. There's a chest at the bottom of the tower. Over here, Foden. Can you guys hear? Is the sound too quiet? Oh, no, it's a Saber Sentinel. Has a Saber. The Ghoul Baron. Uh-oh. Can you guys hear the game sound? You guys should join us on discord.gg/Mirador. Sound is fine? Okay. Oh, that's Crash Quake. Okay, so the Saber, it attacks you twice in rapid successions. Uh-oh. Just block it. Block it, Foden. It's a lot easier to block the Saber attack than to try to dodge it. It's hard to block too, but the Saber is probably the most difficult weapon to dodge in my opinion. Oh no, he died! You didn't heal! You've got health potion! Well, the cool part about dying, well, he didn't die, he got defeated. The characters don't die in Mirador, they get defeated. And the cool part about that is that now he's a hologram. As you can see, he's walking around, he can still follow me around, and if I can make it to the first sanctuary, which I strongly doubt, he will come back into his physical form, and he'll be able to further help me. But I really don't think I can make it to the first sanctuary. I really need to I need to post stuff on Twitter and stuff. We just launched the game. It can wait 30 minutes. It's not a big deal. Uh-oh, Force Lance. Okay. So if you're playing with a controller, your right trigger is heal, and your left trigger is the boomerang. Oh no! Ooh, almost died. I had like 1 HP left. I'm really not very good. We didn't even take him down to half his health, Foden, and he's the first Sentinel. This is gonna be the easiest one we're gonna encounter in the run. Oh gosh, okay. I don't think we're gonna make it, Foden. I'm gonna try my very best, but I do not have much faith in my abilities. Oh no! I still have 1 health potion. You actually want to not use your health potion until you have like 1 bar left or something, because it heals for the full amount. So 1 health potion will fully restore your health bar. So use it, you know, be smart about it. I've got some bad news, Foden. I've got some bad news, Foden. I'm not very good at this. I am not very good. Oh gosh. Oh gosh, okay. I really need to get good. I can't wait until speedrunners pick up Mirador and start. We'll find out what's the fastest somebody can beat 3 rounds. But since there's RNG, I'm not sure. Oh no! Oh, then I'm sorry. Whew. There's not a class system for characters. Everybody has the same loadout for now. Eventually, we'd like to add like different abilities, different weapons and whatnot, secondary weapons and primary weapons for the characters. But for now, it's the sword and the shield and the dash and the heal and the boomerang. However, we did invest a whole lot of effort in the wicked sick Sentinel creator. Hey, buddy, what are you up to? I'm hungry. I'm hungry too, man. I've been working for the past 3 weeks on Mirador. Well, a bit longer than that. Like more like the past year and a half. The stew will be ready in a bit. Oh, okay. I'm going to go into the workshop and show that to you guys. So right now I don't have any sentinels, okay? So I'm going to pick a sentinel. If you're using keyboard and mouse, use W and S and then click on create here at the bottom right. I'm going to hide the UI real quick. Hold up. There you go. I'm going to hide. Yeah, there you go. So WS to pick the slot that you want to work on, and then click create here at the bottom right, and there is the Sentinel editor now in the Sentinel workshop. You can use the arrow keys to rotate your Sentinel around. Now, since I'm a developer, I cheated a little bit and I have a bunch of items, so you're going to see a lot of items in my workshop. That's because I gave myself a bunch of items. I'm not even going to lie. But it'll give you a good idea of how much awesome stuff you can find. Let's make a... Should we make a futuristic or a more medieval looking Sentinel? Once I get home, I plan on sending y'all a care package. What kind of food do you like over there? The game is actually so difficult. You get a lot better at it, Wisp. You get a lot better at it really quickly. Yeah, Ogzo, that's something we'd like to do eventually. I don't know how to use the controls. Are you using a controller or a keyboard and mouse? Futuristic. All right, let's make a more techy looking Sentinel. Let's, yeah, I like that helmet. This is the Osprey helmet. It looks really cool. I'm using ASDW, by the way, to go places. I don't think I have any chin attachments. No, I don't. Do I have any face attachments? Yes, I do. Maybe... No, let's not give him any face attachments. Maybe a forehead attachment would be cool. Oh, that's kind of cool. I like the bullhorn. Or this. This is pretty neat looking. Yeah, let's do that. Let's give the Sentinel a face decal. I have like almost all of them, I think. Let's see, one that looks cool. Let's give the Sentinel a glyph. Huh. Let's do this one. This one looks really cool. I like this one. The orbital glyph. Oh yeah! This is your very last chance. I'm gonna tell you guys this because you're watching right now the stream. Okay? I'm gonna tell you this. I shouldn't be telling you because it's like too much privilege. But right now, if you go to miradorgame.com/newsletter and you sign up, this is your only chance. Because after I end the stream today, I'm taking off this special bonus. Everybody that signs up to the newsletter, you're gonna get 3 copies of the flanged helmet and 3 copies of the aperture glyph. So you're gonna be able to use them on 3 different sentinels. And we're gonna give you one of every tier of the flanged helmet because the cosmetics have different tiers. So like there's rare cosmetics and less rare cosmetics. For the flanged helmet, there's 3 of them. We're gonna give you all 3 of them. So go sign up right now to the newsletter. This is your last chance. We won't spam you, I promise. We send like, maybe. Right now we've sent a lot because there's the games launch, but really we won't be spamming you. No lies, I promise. Just wondering, Chat, will you remove the Mirador playtest items from us? The Mirador playtests are like on another game, technically, so you don't actually own them, Matthew, or you shouldn't. It shouldn't show you as you having them. Everybody gets a starter pack, though, so when you launch the game for the first time, it'll give you a bunch of items. And that's normal. That's just to let you be able to make a Sentinel. Let's do that. I like that. The cuirass. Let's see. Let's give him something... Ooh, I like the harness. See, there's different variations of some of the cosmetics, like the harnesses. Notice the paint scheme. You see that? I like this one. It's gonna be like futuristic military kind of thing. Ooh, should we give it a cape? That cape doesn't look so great on the cuirass. We might want to fix that. I'm not gonna put a cape. I can put a decal on the cuirass though, so that's pretty cool. Let's do... Oh yeah, that looks pretty cool. Okay, pauldrons. Let's see, what pauldrons are we gonna give this Sentinel? Let's do... I like the anode pauldrons. They look pretty techy. Yep, I think we're gonna do that. We're gonna put this variation of the anode pauldrons. Oh, I can put attachments on the pauldrons as well. I have ribbons I can put over here. Pretty cool looking. Yeah, let's put ribbons. I like the ribbons. I can put spikes too. Yeah, see, I can put spikes. I can put these curved spikes. The curved spikes look really bad. Oh man, I'm definitely keeping that. Or curved spikes, or just let's put regular spikes. Let's not make it too extra. Let's see. I can put decals on there too. But since I already have spikes, it'll look a little weird. No, I don't think I'm gonna put any decals. Okay, the boots. Let's see. Ooh, I have quite a bit of different. I like the Velite ones. They look pretty futuristic. Knees. I don't think I have any attachments for the knees. I don't. Okay. Now, material. Let's change the primary color. I have a few selections here. Let's go with. Oh yeah, you can click too here in the Sentinel workshop. What color should the Sentinel be? It's okay, Radish. Where do I claim my items? So if you signed up to the newsletter, just keep an eye out on your emails. We will be sending you Steam keys that you redeem, and it'll give you these items. Give us like a few days. Who has the game already? Are you gonna make this Sentinel ultra difficult? We'll see. I'm not sure which spells and abilities I currently have. What happens if I already subscribe to the newsletter? You will get the items. What's the healing button on keyboard? Q. Q. Gold? Okay, let's do gold. Oh, like this gold? Yeah, I like this gold. This is brass. This is gold. Yeah, let's do gold. And for the secondary color, let's put something flat. Oh, that is so cool. All right, yeah, we're gonna put adamant for the secondary color. Look at that. That looks so cool. I think I can change this primary color here, and that'll be for the ribbons. Yeah, look at that. The ribbons and the pauldrons. Oh, that looks so good. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little excited. This is exciting. We just shipped Mirador. All right, let's do this one. Actually, no, let's put the ribbons in a really flashy color as well. Yeah, gold, or maybe even red. Oh, that looks so good. Crimson, yeah, let's do crimson. I like that. Okay. And finally, the glow. You can find glow items as well that will change the color of the glyphs and give my Sentinel little wings if if you have the decals on, the physics refresh. That's pretty cool. Let's do red. Oh, that looks really cool. I like that. Actually, you know what? I think that's too extra. There's like too many colors. It just looks like too much, you know? Let's keep it blue. Let's keep the blue golden. The blue and golden scheme. Let's do that here too. Remember, you can use the arrow keys to rotate your Sentinel, or the right joystick if you're on using a controller. If you have an Xbox controller, honestly, use it. It is so smooth. It works so great. Okay, there we go. That looks pretty cool. I like it. Now I'm gonna go next. Now is the fun part. Well, it's all the fun part. This is my favorite part. I get to choose the behavior of my Sentinel. I get to decide what my Sentinel is gonna do. So I'm gonna start by choosing the weapon. Actually, I'm gonna remove the blaster. So I have a longsword, and I've got a little video here that shows me what the attack is like. So the longsword is this large, broad strike that can actually strike both the players at the same time. The blaster, pew pew pew, 3 rapid succession shots. The mace is a pretty strong blunt weapon. If the mace hits you like in the center, if you get hit by the actual center of the mace, you will lose a lot of health. A lot of health. The revolver does a lot of damage with a single shot though. The saber is like, I hate fighting against the saber because the Sentinel attacks you twice really quickly with the weapon, so it's really hard to dodge because there's 2 consecutive attacks. But you can block it with your shield, but you have to be quick enough. Now the war axe looks really cool. It's this big slicing weapon, slices you from the top and deals damage in a row, so it can also hit both the players. I think I'm gonna go with the longsword. I'm gonna keep it classical. The longsword is the very first weapon we added to the game, and it looks really cool too. Look at that shine from the gold paint. Circuit. Okay, so the circuit decides the behavior of your Sentinel. Are there any plans to make the Sentinels playable? Not in the short term, Jinjan. It's really a Sentinel fighting game. There is plans though. We are on our roadmap. There is the possibility of eventually adding ways for you to change your loadout as a character, but we're still looking into that. Things are not confirmed yet. This is why we want you guys to play the game and tell us what you think. Tell us what you feel would be awesome to have next in the game. What bothers you the most? Because we're going to be adjusting our roadmap in consequence to what you guys tell us, in consequence to what you guys suggest. Now, obviously, we can't add everything that people suggest, but it's going to be strongly skewed towards that. Like, if everybody tells us, we really, 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 really want to be able to customize the crow, customize the dog, or we really, really want a cat, like, that's gonna, you know, that's gonna affect our decision. Any non-human sentinels are not human in general, but for now we kept it bipeds for this launch. There's a lot of customizations, but they're gonna be bipeds for now. Eventually, the possibility of adding non-biped sentinels is an option. We already have some concept art, some ideas for like floating sentinels or like floating limbs that do stuff. We're still not 100% sure though. I don't want to promise that just yet. We literally just launched the game like minutes ago. So if you see it, it's a little small to see actually. We're probably going to tweak that, but there's different colors on these slots. I'm going to actually go ahead and pick one of those. I'm going to pick maybe this one. Every circle in the circuits dictates a phase, basically a threshold at which the sentinel will switch to the other set of behavior. So I'm going to actually use this one, imbalance. So if you look here, it's a little hard to see, maybe because of the color of my sentinel. Maybe we should make that black panel a little darker. But you can see there's different colored slots. So the circuits are made of, of those circles, those thresholds, and every threshold has slots inside of it. And basically the first threshold is the one here on the left with 1, 2, 3 empty slots that I can fill in. And the second threshold over here has 1, 2, 3 slots as well. And basically the sentinel here, it says threshold 50%. It'll switch from those 3 abilities onto those ones when it reaches 50% HP. So basically the green slots are standard spells. The blue slots are the second tier spells, the advanced spells. And the purple slots, which I don't have in this one, actually maybe I should add one. It'll make my sentinel a little more difficult, but it's okay. Y'all can handle it. Here, I'll use this slot, this circuit, simplicity, the simplest circuit where the sentinel will reliably perform the same string of attacks over and over again. It'll be a pretty classical. Or I can go with Crisis over here. It's a circuit where the sentinel will save its more powerful abilities and unleash them repeatedly after dropping under 20 health. I like that. So my sentinel will get really hard at 20% HP. See, at 20% HP, I can put an advanced and a superior spell. If I have them, you gotta find them by killing enemies. Yeah, Matthew, let us know. See, that's the kind of criticism that we want to know about, and we'll tweak them. Make sure you post them on the forums, because chat is great, but I might forget at the end of the stream. So yeah, the gray slide, the great slots, those are basic attacks, are the weapons attack. Okay, so your sentinel, it's a little difficult to see here, but I'm gonna use this one here on the right. Hold on, I'm gonna zoom this in. That didn't work. Okay, there you go. I'm gonna zoom this in a lot, just like that, just so I can. Okay, so take a look at this one here. Okay, this circuit. So my sentinel will reach this circuit at 20% HP. I can tell because it says 21% here. Actually, at 21% HP, it'll switch over to that. Hey, I can't move the thing. There we go. To that part of the circuit. So the circle is where the sentinel starts. It doesn't actually do anything. It's just where the sentinel's brain locks on when it reaches that threshold. So when my sentinel reaches 21% HP, it'll start here, and then as you can see, there's arrows here. So this one goes at the bottom right. So inevitably, the sentinel will move on to this ability. It'll do this advanced ability, and then the arrow here, it'll move on to this superior ability here, and then it'll do a basic strike, reset, advanced, superior, strike, reset. For this one, the sentinel will start on the circle over here, and then it'll either go up, because the arrows go both ways, so it'll either go to the top right or to the top left, and either way, it'll do strike. So strike, basic ability, standard ability, advanced ability, strike, advanced ability, strike, reset. Or it'll do, oh wait, no, sorry, that's not true. After it reaches here, it goes to advanced, and then it resets. Or the second thing it could do is strike, advanced, reset. Or it could do strike, standard, advanced, reset. You get the idea. So I'm gonna actually go ahead and use this circuit. I like it. So in this ability slot, I'm gonna put... Oh wait, you know what? This is actually not a basic. This is an advanced slot. So I can, in the advanced slot, I can either put advanced or basic or standard abilities. So I have Seismic Shock. You've got little videos here that teach you what it does. seismic shock. I've got anesthetic projection. Sorry. Those are standard though. I'm gonna seize the opportunity and use the advanced spells. I'm gonna use maybe Shard Gale or Molten Geyser or I like Secret Charge. Secret Charge is always hard to fight against. I'm gonna add Secret Charge. And then in this standard slot, I can only put standard abilities. So I'm gonna put maybe Flash Compass. Or maybe Aura of Stupor. I like that. That stops you from walking up to the Sentinel. Well, it doesn't stop you, but if you walk up to the Sentinel, it'll slow you down. An Aura of Miasma around the Sentinel slows down players caught inside and prevents their dash from regenerating. This is pretty good. In this advanced slot, I'm gonna put... Hold on a second, let me think about this. So the Sentinel is gonna start here. And then let's say it's gonna strike you, Secret Charge, strike you, and then maybe it could teleport and then teleport towards you at a location near the player and then projects a circular shockwave. Oh yeah, it'll teleport next to you, it'll hurt you if you stay nearby, and then it'll strike you. I like that. And then when it reaches threshold 21%, let's see, actually before I add the advanced spell, I'm gonna add the superior one because I want to see what I've got here. Oh, I've got a Secret Charge superior. It's a pretty fast bolt. It's a pretty fast electricity disc that spins around a few times actually. There's anesthetic projection. The superior version, it's a very large moving vortex of miasma, slows down players caught inside and slowly drains their dash charges. So this one not only stops them from regenerating, but it drains your dashes too. This is pretty hardcore. Magnetic Impulse is like Secret Bolt, like Secret Charge, sorry, but it throws 3 discs, several ones, pretty fast. Focus Beam is 3 laser beams, sorry, that just spin around. 3 lasers sweep in a cone towards the player in quick succession with progressively longer range, but narrower angles, which makes it harder to dodge. Spatial Warp, it's like Warp Shock, like the other one, except it damages you when it warps out and when it warps in. I like that. Seismic Shock is really hard to dodge, especially the wave one. This one, yeah, the superior Seismic Shot unleashes 2 consecutive expanding rings of spikes around the Sentinel, and they go as waves. So boom, 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 boom. It's pretty hard to deal with. I think I'm gonna add that. And then for the standard slot here, I'm gonna put the advanced Spatial Warp. The Sentinel is gonna teleport towards you, and oh, actually, I already used that one. Maybe Searing. Oh, Searing Wall is cool. Those 3 rings of fire around you. Okay. That looks pretty cool. I'm gonna go to the next spot. Did you notice that the music changes as you progress through the things? Yes, you can use shift to go back, Matthew. you can use space to save. You can use E for X. So yes, good catch there. So save. I'm just gonna go ahead and save the Sentinel, and there we go. So now my Sentinel, the Dishonored King. I like that. It's golden too. The Dishonored King is locally on my station. It is not on the internet yet. It says draft right here. So it's not online. Nobody can fight against it until I deploy it. But as soon as I deploy it, those items that I spent on the Sentinel are gonna be used up. I just remembered I need to text somebody. Hold on. Real quick. Sorry. It's like urgent. Okay. So if I deploy it, you guys will be able to fight against it. If I don't deploy it, it'll only be for me. But I can skirmish. I can skirmish my Sentinel to test it before deploying it, in case I'm not sure and I want to change things around. When you fight a Sentinel, does it tell you who made it? Not yet. Not yet. Are there benefits for Castle Story backers still, or was it only? It was only for the Kickstarter Successful Geek. However, I'm planning a little something for Castle Story backers. So keep an eye out on your emails. Oh, I think I bugged something out. Hold on. I'm just checking what's going on here. Do we have server issues right now? Oh yeah, somebody just reminded me. If you have NVIDIA, make sure you update your NVIDIA graphic card drivers. Yeah, okay. It's launch day. Server issues might happen. If you get a screen like that, we're sorry. Really sorry. I have to restart it. If you find nasty bugs, let us know. Really want to know. Hey, Aspiratology, long time no see, man. Can we challenge our friend Sentinels? Not yet in Ebonomic, but we have something on the roadmap. We actually have something on the roadmap for that. There's a good chance. By the way, all those suggestions, like playing against your friend Sentinels, seeing who made a Sentinel, stuff like that, let us know on the forums. Go to the Steam forums and post those suggestions, because I might forget them after the stream. I'm actually going to wrap up the stream momentarily because I need to go check like support tickets, and I'm sure a lot of people are messaging us right now. Okay. Let me try the skirmish again. Oh, wait. I keep going there because in the past, during playtests, this is where... I know you're hungry, buddy. We're hungry, too. Alright, I'm going to skirmish the Dishonored King. Cross my fingers. We might have server issues right now. Yes, it worked. Okay, I'm going to use my controller for this. If you have a controller, use a controller. It's really awesome. I'm going to try to fight my Sentinel. So if you skirmish your Sentinel, it'll load the Sentinel in the Colosseum. It allows you to... Oof. It allows you to... Gosh, okay, it's kind of hard. It allows you to test your Sentinel before deploying it. So if it's too easy, you might want to, like, I don't know, tweak it or something. Keep in mind that in the Colosseum, you have access... This is a good combination. The teleport plus the stopping me from dash, draining my dashes. It's hardcore. Keep in mind that in the Colosseum, you have 3 healing potions to deal with. Players will only... Well, they'll have 3 healing potions too, but for 3 Sentinels. So if you need 3 healing potions to defeat your Sentinel, that's a pretty good sign that it's a hard Sentinel. Honestly, like the starter Sentinels, you shouldn't even need a healing potion. Once you get good at the game, you won't even need a healing potion until the first Sanctuary, I think. So far, it doesn't seem too difficult of a Sentinel. This is a pretty awesome combination though. An aesthetic, that the slow circle, the slow pink circle around the Sentinel, plus the teleports towards me makes it really hard to dodge. Oh! Makes it really hard to dodge. Uh-oh. I am so bad with the boomerang. Remember, you can block. I tend to forget that I can block, but right now, that Sentinel is not using a whole lot of projectiles. So it's a little more difficult to block anything. I'm not sure you can block the... you definitely can't block the electricity disc, Seeker Charge, and Seeker Bolt, and all those. Yikes, that hurt. But I think you can block... Not this. You can't block the teleportation blast. I think you can block the longsword. The basic strike. Also, try to get used to dodging Seeker Charge without using dashes, because once you get the hang of it, it's pretty easy. Oh, I wanted to try blocking. I'm gonna die if I don't heal right now. Whew, that was close. I will read the chat right after this fight. I think this is a pretty cool Sentinel. I think it might be a tier 1, maybe a tier 2. So your Sentinel will have different tiers. Oh, that's the 21% threshold. See, so it just reached the 21% threshold, and now it's throwing its big attacks at me. I have to kill it fast. Uh-oh. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no! Oh no! Ah! Oh no! Okay. So that is a pretty good combination of spells. I'm gonna just take the damage and step out of the circle. Okay. Come on. No, not again. Not again. Not again. Come on. I'm just gonna take the damage. Whew. So see, that's what this circuit does. There's a bunch of different circuits. They all have different behaviors. This one allowed my Sentinel to just, you know, chip at your health at the start, and then at the end, at its 21% health, it just threw everything it had at me. This is the Crisis circuit. It's really cool. And it's an advanced Crisis, which lets me put some pretty hefty spells in it. Your Sentinel won a match. Nice, Toilet. So when your Sentinel wins a match, I can't show you right now because I haven't deployed that one. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and deploy it. This is a pretty cool Sentinel. So in order to deploy it, I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to hit Y on my controller, or click with my mouse. When your Sentinel defeats somebody, you're going to get some loot from the Sentinel. You can go into your workshop, and see right now it says loot 0 on 5. But when my sentinel starts defeating players, I'll get loot and I can come here and collect the loot. You can also go inside and see, you know, my rating is 1500. That's like the basic rating start. It has no wins, no losses, no loot. It is published though. You can dismantle it as well, whichever. So everybody, for now, I am going to wrap up the stream. There's a whole lot more for you to discover in Mirador. Are we able to customize the sentinel's name? Not yet. If you think that's something that's important for you, go post it on the Steam forums. If you have really important suggestions, post them on the Steam forums. What did I want to tell you? Thank you so much for the follow, Pitbull. Thank you. If you just bought Mirador, it really means a lot to us. We can't wait to see what sentinels you guys are going to make. We can't wait to hear your feedback as well. So please, if you have any feedback, issues, bug reports, suggestions, comments, anything, post them on the Steam forums for Mirador. It's really important. Also, if you bought the game, please leave a review. Reviews are like critical on the first days. So please leave a review. It would mean the world to us. I'm going to read every single review. Make sure you tell us the things that you don't like in the reviews as well, you know, because that's important. I'm going to read all of them, and we're going to take all those in consideration when planning our roadmap. Where can I see the roadmap? You can't yet. There's going to be a roadmap really soon. We're working on it right now. I kind of want to give you guys like a few days, a week maybe or so, maybe 2 weeks to tell us what it is that you want on the roadmap. Tell us what suggestions, what issues are, and depending on your feedback, we're going to adjust the roadmap in consequence. We are a very, very community-oriented studio. Like, we have ideas. We have a bunch of ideas of things we want to add to the game, but we don't know what you guys want us to add to the game yet because you just got the game and you haven't had a chance to tell us. So be sure to go on the forums, tell us your suggestions, tell us your issues, tell us your bug reports, and we will do our best and we will adjust our roadmap in consequence. Be sure to join the Discord as well, discord.gg/Mirador. And yeah, everybody, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the stream, and I hope you enjoy Mirador. Have fun. Oh yeah, it's 10% off for the whole first week. Have fun, guys. Bye.